Welcome to Frap Rap. I'm your host, Aaron Goldman, aka AG, and the artist formerly known on AOL Instant Messenger as GDogg with 8 G's, because 1 through 7 were taken. 25 years ago, I was an AE at an ad network called L90, and my biggest client was Starcom IP. Every Thursday, I'd invite everyone in Chicago at 35 West Wacker to meet me at Cozy across the street for coffee. And for each person that came, I'd do a freestyle rap about them, hence the name Frap Rap. Each episode, I track down another OG IPer to reminisce about the good old days and see what they're up to now. My guest today, live from the Cannes Advertising Festival of Creativity, Saneel Radia. Saneel, welcome to Frap Rap.
I can think of no more important media channel to pursue while in Cannes. Thank you for having me.
This is a big get. I'm super excited to have you on. Want to catch up on everything, life, work, but let's, for now, transport back to the IP days.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've never been on a podcast where the TAM total audience is 60 at best. So I'm hoping for 100% penetration.
It's great. Yes.
Yeah.
So my goal, of course I have the org chart, and my goal is to get everyone on the org chart on the pod.
Yeah.
And also make sure that my listener stream is at least as many.
Yeah, as many people.
as
There.
on
So
here.
I think we can get to like 80 listens.
All right.
Do it.
Let's do it. Okay. So when did you first start at Starcom IP, and what was your role?
I started in 2000 as a college. I literally just graduated college. I did an internship between my junior and senior year in Starcom proper. It was actually in the Hispanic marketing group, as I think it was called then. And I was like, that IP group looks cool. Maybe I can get a job there. And then I started as whatever the bottom thing is called, junior associate.
Yeah.
I don't know.
At some point it became IC, Interaction Coordinator.
Oh no, I think I was I was above that.
Okay.
Because I had an internship before. Yeah. So yeah.
So you were super qualified.
Yeah, super qualified. Yeah. Actually, what's amazing is my advertising degree was in media.
Was it UT? Did I
Was
get
it
that right?
UT? Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Good memory. Yeah. So it's like, oh, good. I learned how to do by hand long form media math. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. That's, so I was in advertising at University of Illinois, and the textbooks, right? Like you couldn't update them, by the time 3 months in digital, like everything else you learned was out of date from the entire 4 years.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So, what accounts did you work on at the beginning, and who did you work with? Like, who were some other people on that you were?
Yeah. So I started on Army, if I remember correctly. That was certainly my first big client. I was on that for a long time. That was it just been won. So we're figuring out what that was in U.S. Army. And then after that, I worked on Miller. So those are the two big ones. I also worked on a bunch of other kind of help stuff, but those are really.
All right. So a couple of interesting things about those accounts. I think in both cases, sort of age verification, certainly for Miller. How did that work back then? We had to was there I agree I'm 21 before I enter the site? Was that the situation?
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that didn't even exist at the very beginning. And I'd already started working in media before that arrived, and we had to do age verification. And then I'm it's so weird that I remember this, but it was called LDAC to 28 was our target. LDAC is legal drinking age customers, because that just, I guess, made people feel smarter than saying 21 to 28 or whatever the Miller budget was. And that, I'm pretty sure our verification was using whatever nonsense data was available to us in the media channel, which was probably self-reported at the time, to say, okay, cool. Yeah, that's an adult audience.
And what about for Army? Also very tight demo, right?
Yeah, but Army actually at that time, because it was a rebrand, actually had it was less we're not come join the Army. It was a lot more inspirational. We did a lot of storytelling, or hey, the Army isn't what you think it is. You get trained for all these different careers, and look at, these are real people that have completely had their lives transformed in terms of their skills, how they behave. It was actually surprisingly not as performance driven as you would think. Certainly that's a huge part of it, but there was a lot of brand storytelling back then as part of this new Go Army message.
Yeah. Those are probably fun accounts to work on. I mean, as opposed to some of the hardcore DR where it's just running banners and tracking conversions.
Yeah. I had fun. All my time in IP was great. I worked 100 hours a week for sure. In fact, every week I worked over 100 hours. I had to print out my hourly sheet and then circle it and explain to Suzanne, my boss, why I hadn't worked so much. And each week I kind of managed to resist just being hey, Suzanne, it's because I have too much fucking work. Yeah, here's an idea. Hire somebody. Yeah, it's wait, why did justify all your hours? It's that's how this works.
Well, and sure enough, over time, the group grew.
Yes.
So take us through the progression. Because you at some point, I think it was Marshall who used the expression like the land of the misfit kids. Like at some point you sort of moved down to the bottom of the org chart where like new rows and functions were created. So like, take us through that.
Yeah, well, you mean like for me in the org
Correct.
chart?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my journey was super weird, right? Like, I feel like I got promoted kind of fast, like I was working a lot. It was actually, I love it. Of course, I bet in Marshall's podcast, he says he invented that phrase about landing in misfit toys. It's a Rishad-ism, by the way.
Oh no, he did give that your
Okay.
and so
I know that motherfucker taking credit for things, right? First thing I'm gonna do is listen to his pod and hear all the things he made up.
So, fun fact, it actually, this week in can, we are releasing the first episode. So we've got a few in the can.
Okay.
Like any good, production crew, we wanted to make sure like this was going to be a real thing. And we actually had like some commits before we launch it publicly. So now we will be live.
Yeah.
And I believe the exact quote he said was 99% of everything maybe sort of came from Rishad.
Yeah.
So he was very, confident in it. And then he sort of qualified it.
Well, Rashad's gift was always like, you go to a meeting with Rishad, everyone leaves inspired, they love him. And this is still happening today, by the way. That's what's amazing about Rishad, is staying power. And then the client's like, oh my God, this guy's a genius. And he says like kind of his like fortune cookie, like very smart, but like, what does it really mean? And then he's like, okay, now Saneel will follow up. And then he leaves the room. And it's like, cool. He was like, I understood about 60% of that too, but let's get into the specifics of how we're going to plan media now. It's like everyone's job was that, I feel like.
Yeah.
On the job thing, just to get back to your question. So I kind of did the usual, like I moved up through the stages, but I then went and did Play, the video game thing, right? And so that was
Was that you and Harris?
It was Harris and PJ were the main kind of like leaders. And then myself and Mike McCarthy were like the two junior partners, so to speak. And then after that, I got actually not even after that, while I was waiting for that to happen, Rashad's like, hey, could you just run this thing called the broadband upfront? And we had to go around, and myself and Dan Buchacher had to go around and raise money to get people to commit like an upfront style to running pre-roll video. It was literally called the broadband upfront because it was like leveraging it as a model, and broadband being, we can finally stream things. And so I spent a year on that little project before I could do the video game thing. Then I came back when I was doing all the Danu stuff. So it was like kind of like a weird evolution of multiple workshops.
And remind us what Danu was and why it was so annoyingly spelled with an O at the end.
Yeah.
You wanted to say Danuo.
Danuo, totally. Yeah. Danu rhymes with poo was always how Christian Kugel would introduce it in meetings. It was called Danu, and this is actually exactly how holding companies name things. They were like, everyone, Rishad had some ideas for names, Tim had some ideas for names, PJ did, we all did. And ultimately it was like a lawyer sends us a list and says, these are 12 pre-owned trademarks that Publicis has. Choose one. And it's like, well, at least that one's in Latin. It's like the other one is like, the rest are called like video stream org. It's like, well, none of these actually apply to what we do.
The broadband upfront.
Yeah.
And what exactly did you do? What did Danu do? What would you say you do here?
Yeah. So honestly, it's funny, like everyone would talk about it differently, but at the end of the day, it's like any of the kind of frontier digital media stuff, social, mobile, like, where companies don't yet have strategies for them, like media is available to them, but like, what do they do with the channel? How does it fit into their broader marketing strategy? What do you say, or how do you act in those environments? It's like, we did a lot of like, with some retail stuff, but mostly social mobile was a lot of it. And then gaming, obviously, because that was the thing I was doing too.
Yeah. And so was that your last stop within the group, Danu?
Yeah, then I left to go to run something called BBH Labs in New York. And then weirdly,
BBH, that was the name, sorry.
Bartle Hegarty. Yeah.
Back when like
you see, you're a media guy, so you don't know this iconic creative agent.
So, but apparently when it comes to naming firms, it was either like pre-owned IP or the founder's name.
Yeah,
that was the only two options.
Choose a trademark and our name counts. So, so BBH Labs was like their innovation unit. It was kind of like a more, I would say like a more heavily creative leaning Danu in many ways. And so they really were like, we need to like up the strategy part of this. And, they, of course they went and got the guy doing that at Danu. So it made sense. It's like how many other players were in the space back then? And then just to answer your question, I promised I'm going somewhere with this. Then I got a call from Rishad out of nowhere. And he's like, are you in New York? And I was like, yes, Rishad, I live here now. And he's like, I've recently resigned, from BBH. No one knows this. And I'm starting like this brand incubator called Fidge 15. And Rishad calls, he's like, I will be in New York tonight. Don't make any other plans or whatever. And then I meet with him, and this guy, because he's got like, tentacles everywhere, he's like, I hear you've resigned. And I'm like, how would you know that? Like, it's like, my team doesn't know that. Like, it's like me, the CEO and the chairman know this. And then cut to later, I realize it's because BBH is being acquired by Publicis. That's something I'm not aware of. And in diligence, this came up because Rishad had asked about it. And then weirdly, I ended up kind of working for Rishad again. Like I was running Finch 15, but Rishad was our executive sponsor at Publicis. So the connection ended up kind of being, it was a bit of a boomerang.
Yeah, full circle. Yeah. Okay. And so then Finch 15, where did that leave off and where did you pick up from there?
Yeah, Finch 15, it's kind of running an entity for Publicis, way ahead, way too far ahead, and then I went to RGA. I was global chief innovation officer there 5 years. And then we founded, a group of us left RGA together and founded Proto. And literally I just saw this like a week ago, but I was like going through my old notes, like in like Evernote or some old thing. And I wrote a bunch of notes to myself when I was like becoming a founder to start my own thing. And the top one says, don't be too early, in all caps. That's like the one message I was like, be really clear about that as a lesson.
Yeah.
And then we just sold it. We just got acquired in January after 5 years. Yeah.
Congratulations. That deserves a clink of the glass. Let's see if the mics pick this up.
Yeah. Cheers.
You're, it's rose o'clock here in Canada.
Yeah. It's still there, to be clear. It's not an exit. It's the beginning of another chapter of the time.
Right on.
Yeah.
So let's go back to that point about, don't be too early. And, your career arc, you've seen a lot, you've done a lot of things. What do you think, what stands out about what made IP unique? And what do you think its legacy is for the industry?
Yeah. I mean, look, you can't, I'd say there's 3 things that made it unique. Rishad, there's just no arguing that. Rishad sets the tone for everything. To your point, 99% of stuff was Rishad. But Rishad being surrounded in people who are like genuine pioneers. When you look back at like just the incredible first time ever things that came out of IP, it's because you have people who can understand philosophically something, but then they bring their own like very unique perspective, right? Like it's like the way Steve Governale did something is very different than the way Art Sinlinger would do something by definition. And yet both are doing pioneering things. So it's not like Rishad doesn't have a playbook at all. He's got like a philosophy and a really like was a good craft of like what high level strategy looks like. And now he's like, you're in the wild, wild west. You guys go figure it out. And I just feel like you need the right people with the right leader and then the right culture to go and actually do all that pioneering stuff.
The trust.
Like, yeah. No one ever showed up and said, this is how we do something here. It was kind of like, this is how we've done it before. What do you think about improving upon it or trying something new? It's like, I love that. In fact, it's like one of the founding principles of Proto too. It's like, that's something I've always remembered about IP. It was like, it was so pioneering because we had permission to be pioneering. And the third one I'd say is, in this case, it is, you asked about its legacy. It's like, if you just look at the tree, I also love that we're getting like party yacht background. Like this is what makes this a unique podcast. That and only having 80 possible listeners is the tree of people. It's like, you look at it, it's like each of those people, if you look at the group, the people who are the young or junior ones, they all grew up and then really cared about growing other talent. So like each one is like a branch of a tree that, Rishad is certainly at the trunk of in many ways, but if you look at it, all those people became great bosses for other people who became great bosses. It's kind of a great, it's one of the things I think is the legacy of all.
Yeah. And back to the culture. I mean, you mentioned 100 hours a week. So, and we were young kids. So your sort of social life kind of also revolved around work.
Yeah. I didn't make enough money to afford food or drinks. Your job was to like give us food and drinks, basically. Yeah.
I could commit to like, a $3 coffee and don't buy the squiggle. Go get the free strips at the counter. Yeah. Right. We're on a budget here.
Yeah. So it was life advice and the $3 thing. No, you were generous with us. So
well, but you guys, like I'm sure you're still friends with a bunch of these folks. Yep. You're probably still doing fantasy football.
Oh yeah.
Good shit with these guys.
I am. Yes.
What do you have like, and we'll get into our proper call next for the lightning round, but what, any like fun story, fun memory, anything stands out? Could be a Burnett breakfast. It could have been, a new business pitch, anything come to mind?
Yeah, I remember, it's so funny because it's like, you look back at all the things that like we were doing back then, and it really is like young people who are misfits to some degree, who work really hard and then play really hard. And so you just have like, it's the level of depth of those relationships is different because you get to see each other in your most stressed kind of intense moments. And then you all kind of just go and release steam together. Right? But for me, I have a memory, that, we would make all these dumb bets and everyone's drunk and we're taking shots and like just dumb things. I'm 21, 22, 23. And I like lost a bet, or I can't even remember. It's a little bit of a drunken lord, but something happened where myself and, Bree had to change shirts, right? Like it was like in the bar, we had to we did like an exchange. And then that led to a bunch of dominoes that I'm pretty sure culminated in a Halloween party. It was like, it began a tradition of like somehow like swapping clothes to dress like the other one.
Yes, I know where this
And
is
then
going.
you and I were at a Halloween party and you had to select another person at the party to dress as. And I went dressed as you.
You had my lace-up jeans.
Your lace-up jeans and a blue, I'm gonna call it a tank top, a
Correct.
teal
Back
tank
then
top.
we had a different word.
Yeah. And that photo, which I thought disappeared off the face of the earth, at my Proto, like this is now like, you know, I'm 46 years old when this story is happening, right? Last year made an appearance in our we do something called Proto Rap, right? It's just like the dumb kind of party with like memories in it. And they did flashbacks to everyone young, and somehow that image was in our end of year party. And everyone's like, what is that? I was like, this is really tough to explain. I'm dressed as Aaron Goldman, who's like a guy, you know, that I know. And it's like, how do you explain the lace-up jeans and a teal tank top as a person who only wears black or white clothes?
Wow. All right, we'll have to put the pic in the show notes. That's the thing we do on the Frap Rap on. I remember a story about you, and I may not have my facts straight, and you may not forgive me for sharing it.
Okay, that's fine.
It was maybe a South by Southwest, and you might have been out late one night and had to catch an early plane, and you might have packed in a hurry and or in a dizzy state, and then you got to your destination, open your suitcase, and I don't remember. It's either the suitcase was only socks or it was only underwear.
But it was only socks.
Okay.
Yeah. So first of all, I love that you gave me even more credit, because going to South by sounds like I'm adult enough to be heading to a work event. No, back then, myself, G Ham, Vogel, Courtney Lee, like a group of us, we would go, this guy, Matt Davis, who worked at Starcom, who you definitely know and are good friends with, we would go to Mardi Gras. So it was like, oh, it's spring break, even though we all have jobs now. And we would take like a week or multiple days off, and we'd road trip to Mardi Gras. Again, Struck My P is based in Chicago for the 3 listeners that aren't IPers. And we drive to Mardi Gras, and I remember we had this whole thing, and I got there and I was like, it's like we went out too late because it was like the last night before Mardi Gras. And I get there and I only have socks. Literally, it's like I just brought socks and that's it. And it's like, what did SASaneel pack us at?
But you know what? I mean, at least your feet were protected on Bourbon Street.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Incredible. All right, so now it's time for the apartment crawl, which unlike the actual apartment crawl, we'd like go around to.
Oh, let's take the yacht around. I like this. Let's jump at these other yachts.
Yes, we have budget to be on the yacht, not actually move the yacht.
Got it.
Yes, we have to be. We're in stationary position.
Okay.
But so this is our lightning round. Of course, it's an homage to when we go around to everyone's apartment, sort of one at a time. Instead of red Solo cups for this edition, we've got our fancy glasses of rosé.
Get a clink in front of this guy.
So we'll cheers it here.
There it is.
And we'll insert our hype apartment crawl music.
Okay.
And this is just, first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
And this one should be easy, and this will actually end up being the name of the episode.
Oh, okay.
So what was your AOL Instant Messenger handle?
SASaneel, that everyone pronounced SASaneel. But, like a little, not quite 8, but, double letters. Yeah. But it was actually meant San Antonio Saneel. Yeah. Everyone just said SASaneel.
Yeah. And I'm sure at some point once like SAS became an acronym, there was like software is Saneel, which actually could be cool and scary.
That's my future in AI, by the way.
All right. First boss at IP.
Suzanne Mikoff.
Favorite client?
Debbie Zenner.
If you could have worked on any client other than the ones you were on, who did you have envy of?
At that time, because I was 21 years old, Playboy. All I wanted to do was to work on that Playboy account. And instead, I got to, at Mardi Gras, get to go to the Playboy house. And I thought that was I have the greatest job in the world as I make $1.12
Was Phil Jackus your rep? Remember Jackus? By the way, what a great name.
Period. Yeah, totally.
Playboy
is built for it. Yeah, he made that up when he applied.
All right, speaking of reps, present company excluded. Who was your favorite vendor?
I'm not going to answer it by vendor. I'm going to mention it by person.
Cool.
If that's okay. I'd say Michelle Ball or Rob Goldberg.
Nice.
One of those two.
Yeah.
Rob is, one of my best friends now. And Michelle Ball is a person I love, and I feel like we pick up from scratch every time I see her.
Incredible. Yeah. All right. How about a hot take on AI and advertising? Let's get nerdy.
A hot take on AI and advertising. Yeah. I think that's why anyone listens to this fucking.
This is what we call the AEO GEO portion, because when the transcript goes up.
I see. Got it. Yeah, you need some of that. Okay. Actually, I'm really glad you asked me about the future of AI and advertising. I think that as you have a group of people constantly talking about how the human has become more important, you have all the evidence in the world that AI is definitively replacing multiple roles in a way that we're just going to gloss over. And having been through a bunch of innovation cycles, there's no arguing that is happening today and will continue to get worse as it relates to employment and then inevitably unlock way more jobs in the long term is my view of it.
Here, from your lips to EdTech God's ears.
Yep.
Shout out. I might have some. I'm collecting my wristbands.
Nice.
From the
Oh yeah, these
shirt.
are potential sponsors for this.
So we're going to move into the Frap Rap portion. You probably should apologize in the rears. I realized, and I always remember to love this about you. I think you and I are probably like the fastest talkers in all of advertising.
Yeah.
And so like people like to listen to podcasts at like
1.5. Now all my podcasts, you're going 1.25.
People have to dial us back. It's like 0.75. Yeah.
Actually, can we call the episode 0.75? That's like, yeah.
Actually, that'd actually be a great entire show.
Yeah.
So for the Frap Rap round, we've got our trusty marker and note cards here.
Okay. And I'm writing down what?
Just 3 keywords that I'll incorporate into my rap.
Okay.
By the rules of Harry Mack, no fruits and no colors.
Okay. Do you get to see what I'm writing down? Or
yes, I will see it. You can hide it, but you'll show it up one at a time. I'll work it in, then you show me the next one.
Okay, got it.
And so that's, of course, while you're thinking, I'll remind folks, this was, back in the day at Cozy, I would do my freestyle rap for each person that came. So you come in, you get your cup of coffee, you get your strip of the fresh bread, and then you would get a rap from yours truly. And so for this version of it, rather than me like rapping about what you are giving me some good material. I could just go off of your clothes and its glasses and the beautiful salt and pepper. But instead, you get to pick the words. And we'll drop the beatbox in the back. Our crack production staff has come up with a nice little backing track.
I'm going to change mine.
Oh boy. All right. Don't overthink it.
Well, I made it hard on purpose, and then it's like, that's just me.
Okay.
All right.
What do we start with? Give me one to start with.
Incel.
All right.
And I'm going to flip these as you're going, right? When I hear it?
Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
Exactly right.
All right.
Check it. AG in the place to be. We're in canon. Everybody is going insane in the brain. When we think about IP, we're going back to the old days. Got the glory. Got the story. I'm here with my man Saneel. He's gone far. He's got to drive in his car from the West Coast down to the East. My man's a beast, and he cannot compete with anything he said before on the dance floor. We're going to break it on down with that funky sound. I done hit it. I done gel. I done like it with my incel because when I go down, I'm going to get it there. I'm going to make that word. I'm going to make that verb. I'm going to drop another noun and point to it. We're going to slow it down, slow the beat. The rap gets slow and stomp your feet. You might want to say it's 1.3, no, 0.75. I'm still alive. Let's bring it back up. Let's start to raise our cup. Put your hands up in the air. Wave them around. I'm like, you just don't care. We're taking it back to the old school because we old fools. Who's so cool? If you want to get down, I'm going to show you the way. Whoop. There it is. Let me hear you say whoop, and the record skips a little. You might call it a schism. It's just a Rishad-ism. 99% of all of the credit goes to him. The other fractional attribution is you and the other misfit kids. Thank you, Saneel.
Amazing.
Appreciate you.
This is awesome. What a great idea. Thank you for doing this.
And we'll see you on the next episode of Frap Rap.
Cheers.
You're listening to the Mediaocean Podcast Network. For more of our shows, visit www.mediaocean.com/podcasts.
Welcome to Between Two Humans. My name is Fern.